Hey everyone, so look, I'm very late to the party on these, I understand, but I do have a fair few Indiana Jones Adventure Series figures that I never covered on this channel because I was really trying hard to collect the entire series. The series has seemingly ended now and stores are no longer stocking these guys in my country, so I'm all out of luck when it comes to actually finishing this collection, unfortunately. So we're just gonna have to cover the ones that I do have from each respective wave. This is 80% of wave 2, in my eyes the good figures, and that might be in quotations for some of you. I am missing a pretty obvious one, but I will explain towards the end. I think the second wave of figures here is pretty lackluster actually compared to that first wave of figures. I think I was originally really positive on these figures, and as individuals I do think that they're all really good and worthwhile and they have something worth talking about. As an ensemble wave though, I am pretty disappointed, especially in retrospect now that the series has seemingly ended. Packaging for these figures I just love. I know a lot of people really don't like the plastic free packaging for the Hasbro toys, but because I only just started recently recollecting toys again, it hasn't been too much of an issue for me. I just think that box art design is really great. I really love all that theming involved here and the classic movie poster like artwork of the characters on the sides. It's all just really pretty. Our figures consist of Indiana Jones and Short Round based on the Temple of Doom, which makes sense given that wave 1 was entirely based on Raiders of the Lost Ark. So let's see who else we have here from Temple of Doom. Oh, it's Indy and Helena from Dial of Destiny. It's a really weird mix of figures of both Temple of Doom and at the time the new movie Dial of Destiny. But anyway, opening these guys up and taking the figures out and their respective accessories, it reminded me just how much I love this new toy line. The accessories are jammed with so many special items, from wearable accessories to weapons to in-world items as well. It's a really great lineup of extras from the Hasbro line, considering my issues with their accessories or lack thereof in other toy lines. I'll start with Short Round, who was the last figure of this wave that I bought. I was really put off due to that size comparison. It just bothers me that little figures like him or a Yoda or something will cost the exact same amount as another traditional figure. They make up for this though with the accessories and the use of the soft goods. Short Round is the only figure in the series I believe to have soft goods. I'm kind of mixed sometimes when it comes to soft goods. I like the idea of them a lot, but sometimes they don't really sit the way that I personally want them to be sitting, but this looks pretty good actually. I'm only mixed on this now because he's the only figure out of the entire line to have something like this, so he's going to really stand out on your display. It's pretty tough to remove it from him as well, small body and all. The skin tone on his body there really doesn't match the skin tone for his head and neck. I don't know what's happened there, but it's way off. A rubbery plastic is used for his shirt underneath, and it's really cool that you can have two different looks for him depending on your display preferences. I really like that. Short Round's articulation is also pretty good. He's got some head movements here, and his neck also has some separate movements. His arm can move all the way around, but of course the jacket on means that his movement is a bit restricted currently. He's got some rotates and some bends in the elbow, and his hands have some minor movements as well. We can say the exact same thing for the other arm because it moves the same way. Rotates are here in the upper torso, really nice to see. For his legs we have some rotates and some bends in all the right places, some single bends in the knee joint here, and some rotates and bends for the feet here as well. Standing test, Short Round is actually pretty easy to play with. Accessories, like I said, he is probably one of the best figures of the line. He's got different hats, a torch, a knife, and a voodoo doll of Indy, and the back of the artifact as well. More on that at the end though. The hats are a rubber-like material, they fit on him really nicely. Having Indy's hat is actually pretty cool too, because all of the Indiana Jones figures have his hat glued onto his head, so this is the first time that we actually get to see it as its own special piece. The torch is a pretty thick piece, it can fit in his hand, it just needs a little bit of adjusting there. The voodoo doll and the knife are very small accessories. One of his hands has a bit more of a closed up gesture, so these fit into that hand quite nicely. This is Indy, our second Temple of Doom figure here. This is one of the best variants of Indiana Jones I think that I've ever seen, especially in the toy form. He only has one sleeve on here, he's got some bruising and some battle damage. It's a really cool differing look for him to have, and to have an action figure of this guy feels really great as well. I didn't want to get too many repeats of Indiana Jones for my displays, but stay tuned for my Series 3 review because I wasn't so good at keeping true to my words on that. Facial expression, it's a little weird actually. It feels kind of off compared to the other Harrison Ford toys that I have, and I have plenty of them now after this toy line. I love the torn clothing and the damage details he has here, like the exposed knee and the bandage that's there on his hand. Some slashes on his back look really cool as well, and the material is the same rubber-like plastic that's used for Short Round shirt. The articulation here is great. He's got some head movements and some neck movements as well, full arm movements like bends and rotates, and he has some clavicle movements here too, more obvious than some of those other figures. Single bends and rotates in the elbow, and his hands have some slight rotates in them as well. The exact same thing can be said for the other arm, which moves the exact same same way. It looks like he's got some movements in the upper torso, but I think that shirt gets in the way or something because I can't really seem to make anything happen here. His lower torso though, he's got bends and some rotates, really nice to see. Legs can move in and out, also nice and easy. We have some rotates in the upper leg and bends in the knee, and some rotates at the feet. All of these figures pretty much move the exact same way as one another. Standing test, it's a little tricky sometimes, but otherwise it's actually manageable. Again, he is loaded with extras. We've got whips and other weapons like a gun and a sword. He also has his satchel and the jaw piece to the artifact. The bag is nice. It's counted as an accessory on the back of the packaging, so I removed it for the sake of this video. The whip is the same one from the previous releases, both coiled and uncoiled. The gun might be different. I don't really remember if the gun in the previous Raiders figure had this brown painted handle or not, because it looks really great here. The sword is a really nice extra though. It's very specific to him, but this thing got really messed up in packaging, so I'm gonna have to do something to fix that. And then the jaw piece looks nice too, but again, a bit more on that later. Giving him all of his extras now, it's really cool. The holster for his gun and the holster for the whip, it still doesn't work, which was an issue that I had with the Raiders figure, and so I thought I might have just been really unlucky with mine, but it looks like everyone else had these issues as well, so it's really awesome to see that they didn't fix it here. Keeping the Indy train going here, it's the Dial of Destiny figure. This is the old man variant of Indy, who was like my second most anticipated figure that I wanted to see. This was the wave that I guess released alongside with the movie. It's very strange to have the second wave be both a mixture of the second movie and also the fifth. Different head sculpts, which is important to see. He's looking a lot more closer to his Force Awakens likeness here, which is great. It's exactly what I was wanting to see. He basically repeats a lot of what the Raiders of the Lost Ark Indy figure does. He's got that classic costume, but it's a bit more stylized to look a little different. It's updated to match that new movie. It's pretty simple actually, given that we've seen this figure before, but with a younger head sculpt. But it's nice though. It's exactly what I wanted the old man Indy to look like, even though I personally wanted to see him from the fourth movie, not the fifth. Articulation wise, Indy moves at the head here. The neck is a little bit more firm compared to those other figures, exact same arm movements as the others, rotates and bends and clavicle movements. We've got some single bends and rotates in the elbow and the same movements for the hands. As always, the same movements can be said for the other arm, which moves the exact same way. Rotates and bends are made available in the waist for our figure, and the leg movements are the same as all of the others. We've got some movements for upwards and outwards, some rotates here as well. Same bends in the knee, and the feet can move here as well. Standing test, like the others, he's pretty simple. The accessories pump the brakes a little bit this time around, but there's still some pretty nice stuff here when you look at it all together. We have a snake, insane inclusion, a backpack, a whip, a light, and his satchel. The backpack is awesome, really. You can tell that these bags have been specifically molded for these guys just because of how well they rest on the figure. My favorite part here is the rope, which can be fully removed from that piece, so in a way, it kind of acts like another accessory. The satchel, you can't have Indy without his satchel. It's actually a different inclusion from the one on the Temple of Doom figure, which is really nice to see. I really didn't expect that. The light is really cool. I love it as a period piece object, and then we have his whip, which remains coiled. I guess he didn't really use it a whole lot in the new one, huh? And the snake build, which looks really cool as well. That's a really fun accessory to have. It's actually part of the build and artifact, but of course we'll be going over that shortly. Equipping all of his gear now, the bag again I think looks really good. It's a really good way to differentiate this figure from the other Indiana Jones that you have that are the younger variants on your display. I really love this figure overall. His whip is finally actually fixed. There is a peg on the belt and a hole in the whip, and it just sits like this. Amazing, they actually fixed it. And then there's Helena. This figure gets a pretty bad rap from the community for being a bit disproportionate. Complaints made about her neck, which I don't entirely disagree with. I really like how her clothing looks though, for as simple as those colors are. Again, one of the reasons I love this line so much is because every figure here is a period piece action figure from the 20s to the 50s, which you'll never likely get in another theme. I actually like the face likeness here. I don't think it's necessarily perfect, but I still think it fits Phoebe Waller-Bridge, at least to me. I think she looks more like her character than say Short Round looks like his. This is pretty much her defining outfit in the movie, so it makes sense to make this the action figure, but it's also a shame because she does have some other interesting outfits on display in the movie as well. Articulation is pretty standard. We've got some head movements and the neck moves as well. The arm has some very subtle clavicle movements, but it's there, it's just tricky. Otherwise, it is the same movement as the other figures, bends and rotates in all the right places, and the exact same movements can be said for the other arm, which moves the exact same way. Rotates and bends in the torso area. We've got some leg movement and bends in the knees, as well as some feet movement. Standing test, also very simple to work with. Helena's accessories, unfortunately, are easily the weakest ones. We have the same light that Indy came with, and we have this really cool backpack piece which is made just for her. We then also have the face of the skull artifact. That's all she comes with. I'm a little let down on the lack of accessories for her. I suppose in saying that, I guess there's not too much that could have been included with her, but the fact that there's no dial accessory for any of these Dial of Destiny figures is crazy to me. So these are the artifact pieces that I have total, missing the stones that fit inside the build here, but it does actually all connect and function without those stones, so that's good on my end. Everything is pretty easy to assemble, and then here we have our artifact. I really love these world building extras that they've included in this line, honestly. You can see here up close that this is where those stones are supposed to be placed. These types of extras will really bring out the displays. A quick size comparison between who I think are the shortest and tallest figures of the wave. Something I did with my arc from the previous wave is I used it for storage for all of those extra accessories, and I'm pleased to report you can actually do the exact same thing here with this one, which is exactly what I plan on doing. That is my coverage of the Indiana Jones Wave 2 release. The missing figure here is the Hypnotized Indy. I sat on this review for quite some time and I regularly went back and forth on that figure. He's pretty similar to the Temple of Doom Indy. Accessories seemed pretty cool, but it's just too close to this Temple one. Had this been a different variant of him, maybe, or had it been ideally a different character, I would have easily budged, but these figures also never released in stores here and they never went onto a really nice sale. It was going to cost $40 NZD online. It's brutal pricing despite how much I really love this line. I just couldn't really justify it, and now it seems like I'm too late anyway because he's out of stock and they won't be bringing him back. I like these figures a lot as individuals, but as a complete wave, I am disappointed in the character choices that were made here. Short Round took a little bit of convincing, but I like that figure overall. I really like all those accessories that he was included with, and the figure does stand out amongst my collection of other figures from toy lines through the use of those soft goods and really special sculpts. Temple of Doom Indy is pretty fantastic as well. It's an ideal variant to have, and I love the attention to detail that this figure has compared to the other Indiana Jones figures. I really love battle damage variants of figures, and the accessories are really top as well. I'm really impressed with him overall. Dial of Destiny Indy is also a really nice figure to have. He's pretty simple in his translation because he repeats a lot of what we've seen previously in some other figures, and to some extent to a little bit of a lesser quality as well, since he doesn't have all of those same really good accessories, but the items that he does include are very fun to play around with, and I'm glad ultimately that I do have an Old Man Indy despite not being based on the movie that I prefer. Helena is just fine. I really love the clothes and the style of the figure, but I go back and forth on that design overall. I think the head is fine when it's posed well enough, but I do wish that her accessories were a bit better. I really love that backpack, but the same light accessory as Indy hurts both of those figures in my eyes. Where I'm let down the most comes in the figure selection. There were 5 figures total released for this wave, and 3 of them were Indiana Jones. I understand the need to get more variants of him out there, but these extra slots should have been used to bulk out Temple of Doom. We didn't get a Willie figure, we didn't get a Mola Ram figure, who apparently rumor has it was supposed to be in place of Hypnotized Indy, and I 100% believe that when you look at those accessories. Wave 3 would do something a bit similar in giving us some Last Crusade representation, and for some reason, more Dial of Destiny inclusions. In a perfect world, each movie would have received its own individual wave release instead, and it wouldn't all be so jumbled up together, because it really contrasts how clear that first wave was in comparison to these last 2. I love the Indiana Jones Adventure series so much, and I hate how soon it had to end and how difficult these figures became to find in NZ. NZ retailers only ended up getting Wave 1. I had to buy Wave 2 online on Amazon, and the new figures that I have from Wave 3 were all acquired in December when I traveled to California. Videos of those toy hunts are on the channel for those that are interested. Thank you for watching, stick around for my video on the final wave that's releasing sometime soon, and I hope to see you in the next video.